Get away from me!
Hi everyone, and thanks for joining us for Social Distance Cinema Discussion. Should we talk about last week? Let's talk about last week. Ordinarily, when we run these watch parties on whatever given night it may be, it's hard for me to pay attention just because I have so many things to run at the same time. So what I usually do is I play the movie, watch it through once in kind of a silly fashion where I make jokes on it with you guys, and then I watch it again the day after to get a more complex idea of what I'm going to be talking about for the given week. Unfortunately, that was impossible last week because I had a project Saturday morning. So by the time Sunday rolled around, I figured it was probably time to watch the movie, and I did watch the movie. And then instead of getting up and starting to write something, I watched another movie, and then I watched another movie. Later on in the day, when I had finally come up with a very, very bare bones idea of something I could talk about, it was too late, and I just decided that it wasn't worth it. So I shot about an hour worth of footage and just ended up not using it. And now it's sitting in a folder on my computer. Can you put a shirt on?
Can you clean them nasty ass feet? Shit.
But there's a picture on Instagram. Feel free to go out and like that if you want. So without further ado, let's talk about Nocturnal Animals and forget about the mistakes of Drew's past. Throughout the movie, we pointed out that the scenes depicting the plot of the novel really felt like a book for some ethereal reason. While I'm sure there's many things that contributed to this, the one that I would like to point out is a strong focus on point of view.
From my point of view, the Jedi are evil! Blood, you are lost!
It's respectable that they chose not to use voiceover narration in this movie. A lot of times if there's a book in a movie, they'll just read directly from the prose via voiceover.
If you're reading this, you've gotten out. And if you've come this far, maybe you're willing to come a little further.
See, the thing is, we all want to be remembered. Hazel knows the truth. She didn't want a million admirers, she just wanted one. And she got it.
Today, Olivia proves her love for me, to you, Angia.
Voiceover narration gets kind of a bad rap from the industry just because it's a cheap way to overtly provide exposition. In a primarily visual medium, that's kind of seen as cheap. That doesn't include this short list of voiceover narration movies. Because voiceover can work, it just requires a halfway talented screenwriter. But isn't it more fun to logic your way through things visually? Like, for example, in this movie, through visuals, we can tell that the novel is in a third-person omniscient point of view. Oh, now he's just talking out his ass. Let's consider for a minute how we perceive things. If I were, say, hit in the face with a fire poker, that was a fire poker, right? Who the f sleeps with a fire poker? We'd be really disoriented. Maybe some tinnitus, blurred or doubled vision, but none of that happens to Jake Gyllenhaal. In fact, the movie is somewhat consistent with this point of view. There are plenty of prime opportunities to jump into the protagonist's head, but the director always shies away from them. Or does he?
On both doors, hey, Luke!
Well, that's interesting. If you just watch that scene and think that everything I said is completely invalid, then you're right. Stay safe, stay healthy, and hopefully this is actually an example of a point of view swap. Remember, there's two continuous stories in this movie, that of real life and that of the novel. What we're seeing here isn't the novel's protagonist's first-person experience of the event, but rather Amy Adams' real-life first-person experience of reading the third-person event in the book. Feel free to rewind the video until you figure out whatever the f*** it is I just said. We're clued into this because immediately afterward we cut to a distraught Amy Adams who can't make herself continue reading the book. She's experiencing feelings toward what she is reading, and those feelings are overlapping into the narrative. That's a really innovative and genius way to visually depict the internal process of reading something powerful. Now, to be clear, there is a scene that seems contradictory to this idea. At one point, we see the novel's protagonist's nightmare. We think in order to see something like that, then the movie would have to be in first person, right? My runaround explanation for this is that sometimes in third-person perspective books, if we want to see the contents of someone's dreams, then the omniscient perspective will just tell us what's going on inside the character's head. This may be where the movie gets a little too complex for even big-budget directors to think about. I mean, on film, how do you make it known to an audience that you're showing the contents of someone's dream from a third-person perspective? I spent a good few minutes thinking about that, and then I gave up. If you have an idea of how to accomplish that, then comment it below and prove yourself better than I am. But yeah, I think maybe just jumping to a first-person perspective real quick and hoping no one noticed might have been what I would have done too, given the situation. But wait, there's more! Can we finally talk about it? I'm gonna talk about it. Amy Adams and Isla Fisher look exactly alike. It's to the point where I actually thought that Amy Adams was playing the wife in the book sequences after the movie. It wasn't until Dave corrected me during an unrelated Civ 6 game, f the French, that I realized that they were not the same person. This is kind of mind-blowing because the author was trying to draw allegorical connections between the book and his real-life failed relationship. Jake Gyllenhaal plays both the protagonist of the novel and the author, and Amy Adams immediately recognizes that Gyllenhaal threw himself in the book as the protagonist. As evidenced by the actresses looking exactly alike, the wife in the novel was written to look exactly like the wife in real life, yet for some reason she is unable to make the connection between the two. That must mean that she is still blind to the love that he had for her and the things that she did to harm the relationship. Resident science guy and recent lumberjack Ian Griffin brought up his concern that it was a little irresponsible to equate divorce and abortion with rape and murder. And I'm glad that he brought that up because none of us disagreed with him. At the same time, Dave's perspective that authors tend to exaggerate and use metaphors for real life was equally valid. I'm curious as to what your thoughts about this are. Did the author maybe go too far, or is anything fair game in the pursuit of emotional fulfillment? Let me know in the comments. Remember to check out the links down below if you're still interested in supporting Black Lives Matter or want to engage in a protest. Stay safe, stay healthy, and hopefully I'll see you next week.